The Kethmori Empire had conquered 17 star systems without losing a single warship. Their method was simple and effective. Send 3 warlords to demonstrate superiority, demand surrender, then strip the planet of resources while keeping the population as laborers. It had worked on every world they encountered. High Admiral Vextar stood on the bridge of the flagship Dominion's Edge, watching the blue-green world called Earth grow larger on the main display. According to their intelligence, this planet held over 7 billion sentients who had barely achieved primitive spaceflight. The conquest would be completed before the next solar cycle. Warlord Zeknon, Warlord Thane, prepare your forces, Vextar commanded through the ship's communication system. His voice carried the authority of someone who had personally overseen the subjugation of 12 worlds. Standard intimidation protocol. Land at their major population centers, demonstrate our weapons, and demand their leadership's immediate surrender. The 2 subordinate warlords acknowledged the order from their respective command vessels. Zeknon commanded the assault ship Iron Talon, bristling with plasma cannons and atmospheric fighters. Thane controlled Stormbearer, equipped with orbital bombardment systems capable of leveling entire cities. As the 3 ships descended through Earth's atmosphere, Vexitar reviewed the tactical data. The humans possessed chemical projectile weapons, crude aircraft, and nuclear devices that were laughably primitive compared to Kethmori technology. Their largest military forces were scattered across multiple continents with no unified command structure. "This will be our easiest conquest yet," Vextar muttered to his tactical officer, a scarred veteran named Kor-El, who had served in the Empire's expansion wars for decades. "The intelligence reports suggest they are highly divided," Kor-El replied, manipulating the holographic display to show Earth's political boundaries. Over 200 separate nations, many in active conflict with each other. They cannot possibly mount organized resistance. The 3 Kethmori warships took positions over major human cities. Dominion's Edge hovered above New York, its kilometer-long hull casting a shadow over Manhattan. Iron Talon positioned itself over London, while Stormbearer held station above Beijing. The psychological impact was immediate and devastating. Within hours, human governments worldwide were in chaos. News networks broadcast images of the massive alien vessels, their dark hulls reflecting sunlight like metallic storms. Panic gripped major cities as millions of people fled urban centers. Vextar watched the human communication networks with satisfaction. Their primitive information systems were easy to monitor and even easier to override when necessary. He opened a channel to every electronic device capable of receiving transmissions. "People of Earth," his voice boomed from every television, radio, and computer across the planet. The Kethmori had long ago perfected universal translation technology. "I am High Admiral Vextar of the Kethmori Empire. Your world now belongs to us." The message continued for exactly 3 minutes, outlining the terms of surrender. Human governments had 72 hours to submit to imperial authority. Any resistance would result in the complete destruction of major population centers. In the silence that followed the transmission, Vextar expected immediate capitulation. Previous conquests had rarely required more than 48 hours before planetary leadership begged for mercy. The first human response came 64 hours later. A single projectile, no larger than a human finger, struck Iron Talon amidships. The kinetic impact barely registered on the ship's sensors, causing no damage to the heavily armored hull. Kor-El initially dismissed it as space debris or a primitive missile that had malfunctioned. "Warlord Zeknon reports minor impact from human projectile," Kor-El informed Vextar. "No damage sustained." Vextar nodded absently, more concerned with the lack of formal surrender from human governments. According to their intelligence, humans were known for rapid submission to superior force. The delay was unprecedented. 12 hours passed. Then another projectile struck Stormbearer over Beijing. Again, no damage, but the precision was noteworthy. The projectile had somehow penetrated the ship's defensive screens and struck exactly where the ship's communication array connected to the main hull. Coincidence, Zeknon declared over the communication link. These humans throw rocks like primitives. Their aim means nothing against our armor. Thane disagreed. The impacts are too precise. Someone is targeting specific points on our hulls. Vextar studied the impact data. Both projectiles had struck areas where ship sensors were most dense. In both cases, the impacts had occurred during routine sensor sweeps of the planet below. A third projectile struck Dominion's edge. This time, Vextar felt the ship shudder slightly. The projectile had somehow penetrated 3 layers of defensive shielding and struck the exact center of the primary scanning array. Impossible, Corel whispered, studying the sensor readings. The projectile's velocity suggests it was fired from the planet's surface. No chemical propellant could achieve such speed and accuracy across that distance. Run full analysis, Vextar ordered. I want to know everything about these projectiles. The analysis revealed disturbing information. Each projectile was made of refined tungsten, shaped specifically for maximum penetration. The manufacturing precision exceeded anything in Keth-Mori databases for primitive civilizations. More troubling, the ballistic calculations required to achieve such accuracy suggested mathematical understanding that rivaled imperial standards. Find the source, Vextar commanded. Deploy fighter squadrons. Scan every square kilometer if necessary. The search began immediately. Keth-Mori fighters swept across continents, their sensors probing for weapon signatures or unusual energy emissions. They found nothing. No massive railgun installations, no orbital launchers, no military complexes capable of such precision strikes. Another projectile struck Iron Talon. This one penetrated the ship's hull and severed a primary power conduit, causing temporary loss of artificial gravity in 3 decks. Admiral, Zeknon's voice carried new urgency. We need to respond with force. These attacks are escalating. Vextar agreed. He authorized limited orbital bombardment of the area where trajectory analysis suggested the shot originated. Stormbearer fired a focused plasma beam that vaporized everything within a 2-kilometer radius of the target zone. The crater still smoked when the next projectile struck Dominion's edge. The shot came from a completely different continent. That's impossible, Corel stated flatly. Our analysis shows the previous shots came from North America. This shot originated from Asia. No single weapon system could operate from such distances. Vextar studied the tactical display, his confidence beginning to waver. In 17 previous conquests, no primitive species had demonstrated such capabilities. The humans were supposed to be barely sentient, incapable of unified action, using weapons that posed no threat to Imperial technology. The fighter squadrons reported no unusual military activity. Human forces remained scattered and disorganized. Their governments still had not officially responded to the surrender ultimatum. Another shot. This one struck Stormbearer and penetrated the ship's armory, causing a secondary explosion that destroyed an entire fighter squadron before it could launch. Admiral, Thane's communication carried fear for the first time. Request permission to withdraw to safe orbital distance. Denied, Vextar replied, though he was beginning to question the decision. We cannot appear weak before primitives. Increase fighter patrols. Find the source of these attacks. The next projectile struck Dominion's edge directly through the bridge's primary viewing port. The tungsten round penetrated the reinforced transparent aluminum and embedded itself in the command console 3 meters from where Vextar stood. In the sudden silence that followed, Coral picked up the still warm projectile. Etched into its surface in precise letters were words in the human language that their translation systems immediately converted. You missed the deadline. Vextar stared at the projectile, understanding dawning. The humans were not firing randomly. Each shot was a message, a demonstration of capability that grew progressively more threatening. The latest shot could have killed him easily but had been deliberately placed to deliver a warning instead. "Sir," the communications officer called, "we're receiving a transmission from the planet's surface." "Put it through." The voice that filled the bridge was calm, measured, and spoke in accented English that their translators rendered in perfect Keth-Mori. "Hi, Admiral Vextar. My name is Marcus Chen. I believe you have something that belongs to me." "What are you talking about, human?" "The planet you're hovering over. I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding about ownership." Vexitar's mandibles clicked in irritation. "You dare to—" "I dare to do many things," the human interrupted. "For instance, I dare to place a tungsten round through your bridge window at 30,000 kilometers distance. I dare to disable your ship's primary systems one component at a time. And I dare to give you one final opportunity to leave our space peacefully. You are one individual against the might of 3 Imperial warships." "Yes," the human replied simply. "That seems about right for fair odds." Vextar cut the transmission, his mind racing. One human had somehow neutralized significant portions of 3 warships using weapons that shouldn't exist. The tactical implications were staggering. "Analysis update, Admiral," Corel reported, his voice tight with concern. "We've detected the source of the latest shot. It came from a mountain range approximately 43,000 kilometers from our position. Impossible range for chemical weapons." "Sir, we're not detecting chemical weapon signatures. The projectiles appear to be launched using electromagnetic acceleration. But the power requirements would necessitate a massive installation. Our scans show no such structures." Another projectile struck, Iron Talon. This one penetrating the ship's main reactor containment and causing power fluctuations throughout the vessel. Emergency systems activated as radiation levels spiked in several compartments. "Warlord Zeknon, report status." "Reactor stable, but operating at 60% efficiency. Another shot to that location could cause critical failure." Vextar realized they were facing something unprecedented. One human with impossible weapons was systematically dismantling 3 Imperial warships. The Conquest Protocol had no provisions for such a scenario. "Sir," the communications officer spoke hesitantly, "the human is transmitting again. Put him through." "Admiral," Marcus Chen's voice was even calmer than before, "I hope you're reconsidering your position. I'd hate for this to escalate unnecessarily." "What do you want?" "For you to leave. Take your ships, return to wherever you came from, and spread the word that Earth is not as defenseless as you believed. The Empire does not retreat from primitives. Then you'll force me to demonstrate why you should." The transmission ended. Vexitar stood motionless, weighing options that grew fewer by the moment. His tactical advantage was disappearing with each impossible shot from the planet below. "Admiral," Corel's voice was urgent, "sensors detect massive energy spike from the planet's surface." On the main display, a brilliant flash erupted from Earth's surface. Seconds later, a projectile larger than any previous shot struck Stormbearer amidships. The round penetrated completely through the vessel, emerging from the opposite side before continuing into space. Stormbearer began listing to starboard as atmosphere vented from the massive breach. Emergency bulkheads sealed, but the ship had lost primary propulsion and half its weapon systems. "Warlord Thane, status report. Ship is stable, but combat ineffective. We need immediate evacuation of 3 decks. Admiral, this human has weapons that can destroy our vessels with single shots." Vextar studied the tactical display, searching for options. 3 Imperial warships, representing the Empire's finest military technology, were being systematically disabled by one human using weapons that defied understanding. The communication console chimed with an incoming transmission. "Admiral," Marcus Chen's voice filled the bridge once more. "I believe I have your attention now." "What are you?" "I'm what happens when you threaten my species," the human replied. "Earth has been preparing for this day for longer than you might imagine. Your empire's expansion was predictable. We've been watching, learning, and getting ready." One individual can do a great deal when properly motivated and adequately equipped. Your intelligence was flawed, Admiral. Humanity isn't divided and primitive. We simply chose to appear that way until we understood the nature of the threat. Vextar felt something he hadn't experienced in decades of conquest: uncertainty. The human's words suggested careful planning, preparation that extended far beyond the current engagement. "Sir," Corell whispered, "long-range sensors are detecting movement throughout human space. Multiple vessels approaching from various directions." "What kind of vessels?" "Unknown configuration. They're using propulsion systems we cannot identify." On the main display, new contacts appeared as dozens of human ships emerged from concealment throughout the solar system. Each vessel was smaller than Imperial warships, but moved with precision and speed that suggested advanced technology. Marcus Chen's voice continued. "You see, Admiral, you made two critical errors. First, you assumed humanity was primitive simply because we use different technology. Second, you believed we were disorganized because you observed our civilian governments. Impossible. Your intelligence observed what we wanted you to observe. Earth's military operates independently of civilian authorities during existential threats. We've been unified in defense preparations while maintaining the appearance of division. The approaching human vessels began taking positions around the three Keth Mori ships. Their movement suggested coordination beyond anything Imperial forces had encountered from primitive species. "Admiral," Zeknon's voice was tight with fear, "my sensors are reading massive weapon signatures from the approaching vessels. These are not primitive chemical weapons." Vextar stared at the tactical display as the reality of the situation became clear. The Keth Mori Empire had not encountered a primitive species ready for subjugation. They had stumbled into a carefully laid trap designed by a civilization that had been preparing for exactly this scenario. The human continued speaking, his voice carrying quiet authority that reminded Vextar of Imperial fleet commanders. "I'm going to make this very simple, Admiral. You have exactly 10 minutes to begin retreat from Earth space. Any hostile action will result in the complete destruction of your vessels. The Empire will send reinforcements. The Empire will send exactly what they can afford to lose. And we'll be ready for them, too." Vextar looked around his bridge, seeing his crew's expressions of uncertainty and fear. In 17 previous conquests, Imperial technology had proven superior in every encounter. The psychological impact of technological dominance had been as important as actual firepower. Now they faced the opposite scenario, a species whose capabilities exceeded Imperial understanding, commanded by individuals who spoke with the confidence of absolute superiority. "Sir," the communications officer reported, "the human vessels are powering weapon systems." 5 minutes, Admiral," Marcus Chen announced calmly. Vextar closed his eyes, recognizing the inevitable. The conquest of Earth had failed before it truly began. One human marksman had demonstrated capabilities that challenged everything the Empire believed about primitive species. For the first time in his career, High Admiral Vextar gave an order he had never expected to voice. "All ships," he announced over fleet communications, "prepare for strategic withdrawal." Marcus Chen lowered his rifle and exhaled slowly, watching the three Keth Mori warships begin their withdrawal from Earth's atmosphere. The massive alien vessels climbed toward space, their hulls scarred from his precision strikes. But he knew this was far from over. "Overwatch, this is Longshot," he spoke into his communication device. "Targets are withdrawing but maintaining formation. Recommend continued surveillance." The response came immediately from General Harrison, commander of Earth's Unified Defense Force. "Copy that, Longshot. Outstanding work. What's your assessment of their retreat?" Marcus adjusted his scope, tracking the alien ships as they gained altitude. After 23 years as humanity's premier marksman, he had developed instincts about enemy behavior that rarely proved wrong. "This isn't a retreat, sir. It's a tactical withdrawal. They're regrouping." "Explain." "Their formation is too tight for a panicked withdrawal. The damaged vessel is maintaining position instead of falling behind for repairs. They're planning something." Marcus was positioned on Mount McKinley in Alaska, surrounded by equipment that represented humanity's most closely guarded secrets. The railgun he had used to pierce the alien ships was a masterpiece of human engineering, capable of accelerating tungsten projectiles to significant fractions of light speed. But the weapon itself was only part of the equation. The targeting system required computational power that pushed human technology to its limits. Calculating ballistic trajectories across tens of thousands of kilometers while accounting for atmospheric conditions, target movement, and the rotation of Earth demanded processing capabilities that had taken decades to develop. Marcus had been born for this role. During the early days of the secret defense program, genetic screening had identified individuals with exceptional spatial reasoning, steady nerve response, and the psychological profile necessary for extreme long-range engagement. He had been recruited at age 16 and spent the following 23 years training for exactly this scenario. "Overwatch, I'm detecting energy signatures from the lead vessel. They're not withdrawing. They're positioning for orbital bombardment." The confirmation came seconds later from the space-based monitoring stations that humanity had disguised as communications satellites. High Admiral Vexistar was preparing to demonstrate Imperial firepower by destroying a major population center. "Longshot, you have authorization for escalated response. Stop them." Marcus had been hoping for that order. He shifted position slightly, adjusting his aim toward the lead ship's primary weapon array. The shot would be more challenging than the previous strikes. The aliens had learned to expect his attacks and were taking evasive action. But they had underestimated human adaptability. Marcus activated the targeting system's predictive mode, a breakthrough in artificial intelligence that could calculate probable target movement patterns based on observed behavior. The system analyzed the alien ship's maneuvering characteristics and generated firing solutions for multiple scenarios. He selected the solution with the highest probability of success and squeezed the trigger. The railgun discharged with a sound like controlled thunder. The tungsten projectile accelerated through the weapon's electromagnetic field, reaching velocities that turned it into pure kinetic energy. 42,000 kilometers above, the projectile struck Dominion's edge, precisely where the primary plasma cannon connected to the ship's power grid. The impact severed the connection and caused a cascade failure that disabled the vessel's entire weapons array. "Direct hit confirmed," Marcus reported. "Target's primary weapons are offline." But Vextar had learned from the previous exchanges. Instead of attempting to engage from orbit, the alien admiral ordered his remaining functional vessel to descend toward the planet's surface. Iron Talon dropped through the atmosphere, its plasma cannons charging for close-range bombardment. Warlord Zeknon intended to level everything within 100 kilometers of Marcus's estimated position. "Overwatch, the aliens are changing tactics. They're coming in low for direct assault." "Understood, Longshot. Phoenix Squadron is inbound to your location." Marcus smiled grimly. Phoenix Squadron represented humanity's answer to alien air superiority, 12 pilots flying craft that combined human ingenuity with technology, reverse-engineered from crashed alien vessels that had been secretly recovered over the past 50 years. The alien ship approached at low altitude, its weapons preparing to fire. At this range, Marcus's railgun would be devastatingly effective, but the alien vessel could also respond quickly enough to target his position. It was exactly the kind of engagement he had trained for his entire adult life. Marcus switched to his secondary weapon system, a rapid-fire electromagnetic launcher capable of sending multiple projectiles in quick succession. The trade-off was reduced individual impact force, but the volume of fire would force the aliens to take defensive action. He fired a burst of 12 projectiles in rapid sequence, each aimed at different sections of the approaching ship. The tungsten rounds struck the vessel's hull, severing communication arrays, damaging sensor clusters, and destroying 2 of the 4 atmospheric control surfaces. Iron Talon began losing stability, its pilot fighting to maintain controlled flight, but Zeknon was a veteran of atmospheric combat. He managed to level the ship and return fire with the port plasma cannon. The energy beam struck Mount McKinley 200 meters from Marcus's position, vaporizing rock and creating a crater that glowed with residual heat. The shockwave knocked Marcus prone, but his equipment was designed to withstand such impacts. He rolled to a new firing position and activated the railgun's emergency power mode. This setting would deliver maximum kinetic impact, but would also drain the weapon's power cells, leaving him with only chemical backup weapons for subsequent engagements. The shot had to count. Marcus aimed for the ship's reactor containment system. The tungsten projectile would penetrate the alien armor and create a containment breach that would force an emergency shutdown. Without reactor power, the ship would crash. He fired. The projectile struck exactly where intended. Iron Talon's reactor immediately entered emergency shutdown as automated systems detected containment failure. The ship's engines died, and it began falling toward the mountainous terrain below. But Zeknon was not finished. With the last of his ship's battery power, he fired every remaining weapon simultaneously, targeting the general area where Marcus's shots had originated. Multiple plasma beams converged on Mount McKinley's peak, turning solid rock into superheated gas. The mountain's summit exploded in a fireball that could be seen from hundreds of kilometers away. When the energy dissipated, a massive crater marked where the peak had once stood. "Longshot, respond immediately," General Harrison's voice carried urgency. "Longshot, do you copy?" Marcus's voice came through clearly, though static indicated damaged equipment. "Overwatch, this is Longshot. Position compromised but operational. I'm mobile and relocating." He had anticipated the alien's response and evacuated his primary position moments before the plasma barrage. His equipment was designed for rapid displacement, allowing him to maintain operational capability even after his position was discovered. Iron Talon crashed into the valley below, its hull cracked open like an egg. Emergency systems deployed to protect the crew, but the ship was a total loss. "Sir," Marcus's voice continued, "I count approximately 30 survivors evacuating the crashed vessel. They're establishing a defensive perimeter. Phoenix Squadron will handle ground forces, Longshot. Your priority is the remaining ships." Marcus was already tracking Stormbearer and Dominion's Edge as they climbed toward higher orbit. Vextar had learned that close engagement with the human marksman was suicidal. He was reverting to standard Imperial doctrine, maintain distance and use superior firepower. But Vextar still didn't understand what he was truly facing. Marcus activated his equipment's most classified capability, the quantum targeting system. This technology exploited quantum entanglement to provide instantaneous range finding and target tracking regardless of distance or interference. It was humanity's most significant breakthrough in applied physics, developed specifically for extreme range engagement. With quantum targeting active, distance became almost irrelevant. Marcus could engage targets anywhere within the solar system with near-perfect accuracy. He selected Stormbearer as his next target. The ship had already sustained significant damage and would be easier to disable completely. His analysis indicated that destroying Warlord Thane's vessel would create psychological pressure on the remaining aliens. Marcus loaded a specialized projectile designed for maximum penetration. The tungsten core was surrounded by a depleted uranium jacket that would fragment upon impact, creating secondary damage throughout the target structure. The quantum targeting system locked onto Stormbearer's main reactor. The ship was over 60,000 kilometers away and accelerating, but distance was no longer a limiting factor. He fired. The projectile reached its target in less than 30 seconds, traveling at speeds that turned it into a relativistic weapon. It struck the alien reactor with the force of a small nuclear device, completely destroying the ship's power generation and propulsion systems. Stormbearer went dark, drifting in space without power or life support. Overwatch, this is Longshot. Target 2 is eliminated. One hostile vessel remains active. But Vextar had finally begun to understand the true nature of his opponent. The human marksman possessed weapons and targeting capabilities that exceeded Imperial technology. Continued engagement would result in the loss of his entire force. The High Admiral made a decision that violated every principle of Imperial doctrine. He requested reinforcements. This is High Admiral Vextar to Imperial Fleet Command. Request immediate dispatch of full battle group to Sol System. Local resistance capabilities exceed all previous intelligence estimates. The response from Fleet Command was immediate and dismissive. Negative, Vextar. Complete conquest with assigned forces. The Empire does not send reinforcements for primitive species. Vextar stared at the communication display, understanding that Imperial pride would prevent the rational response. Fleet Command expected him to defeat Earth's defenses using 3 ships against an enemy whose capabilities they refused to acknowledge. Marcus Chen had monitored the alien communication through humanity's signals intelligence network. He understood that the aliens were trapped by their own arrogance, forced to continue fighting with inadequate resources. It was time to end the engagement. Marcus loaded his final specialized projectile, a tungsten osmium alloy designed to penetrate any known armor and continue through multiple structural barriers. This round would not simply disable the alien ship, it would destroy it completely. He aimed for Dominion's Edge's command section, where intelligence indicated the alien leadership would be located. But before firing, Marcus activated his communication system one final time. High Admiral Vextar, this is Marcus Chen. I'm offering you one last opportunity to withdraw from our system peacefully. You cannot defeat the might of the Empire with individual weapons. Admiral, I've just eliminated 2 of your 3 ships using individual weapons. Your intelligence was flawed because your Empire has never encountered a species that chose to appear primitive while developing superior technology. Impossible. No primitive civilization could... We're not primitive, Admiral. We're patient. Humanity has been observing your Empire's expansion for over a century. We've studied your tactics, analyzed your technology, and prepared specifically for this encounter. Marcus paused, allowing the implications to sink in. Every world you've conquered gave us intelligence about your capabilities and weaknesses. Earth became the trap where your expansion ends. The Empire has thousands of ships. Yes, and they're all equipped with technology we understand completely. Your weapons, your shields, your propulsion systems. We've had decades to develop countermeasures. Marcus centered his aim on the alien ship's command section, his finger resting lightly on the trigger. You have 60 seconds to begin retreat, Admiral. After that, I will demonstrate why humanity doesn't fear your Empire. Vextar looked around his bridge, seeing fear in his crew's expressions. The human's words carried implications that extended far beyond this single engagement. If Earth had been preparing for Imperial expansion, if they had been studying conquered worlds and developing countermeasures, then the entire expansion campaign was compromised. Sir, Corel whispered, recommend strategic withdrawal. We need to warn Fleet Command about human capabilities. 30 seconds, Admiral, Marcus announced calmly. Vextar realized he faced an impossible choice. Continuing the engagement would result in the destruction of his ship and crew, but retreat meant admitting that the Empire had encountered a species that could match or exceed Imperial technology. In the end, survival instincts proved stronger than military pride. All ships, Vextar announced over the fleet communication system, execute immediate withdrawal from Sol system. Priority transmission to Fleet Command. Human capabilities require reassessment of expansion protocols. Marcus Chen watched through his scope as the remaining alien ships began accelerating away from Earth. The engagement was over, but he knew it was only the beginning of a much larger conflict. Overwatch, this is Longshot. Hostile forces are withdrawing from Sol system. Mission accomplished. Outstanding work, Longshot. Return to base for debrief. Marcus began packing his equipment, his movements efficient and practiced. The Kethmori Empire would return, probably in greater numbers and with better intelligence about human capabilities. But they would find Earth ready for them. The species that had learned to appear primitive while developing superior technology was about to teach the galaxy a lesson about underestimating human determination. As he prepared to leave Mount McKinley, Marcus Chen allowed himself a small smile. Phase 1 of humanity's defense plan had worked exactly as intended. Now it was time to begin Phase 2, taking the war to the enemy. 3 months after the failed invasion, Marcus Chen stood in the briefing room of the Cheyenne Mountain Complex, surrounded by representatives from every major human military force and intelligence agency. The room's walls displayed tactical data that would have been impossible to gather just years earlier. Ladies and gentlemen, General Harrison began, thanks to Longshot's successful engagement with the Kethmori Advance Force, we now have confirmed intelligence on Imperial military capabilities, tactical doctrine, and most importantly, their communication protocols. Marcus observed the assembled officers and analysts, recognizing many faces from decades of secret preparation. These were the people who had spent their careers building humanity's hidden defenses, while the world above remained unaware of the approaching threat. The alien vessels left behind more than debris, Dr. Sarah Kim, the project's chief scientist, announced as holographic displays activated throughout the room. We've recovered intact samples of their technology, including their quantum communication array. The implications were staggering. Humanity now had access to instantaneous communication across galactic distances, technology that would revolutionize human space capabilities. More importantly, Dr. Kim continued, we've successfully infiltrated their communication network. We can monitor Imperial fleet movements in real time. Marcus stepped forward, activating the central tactical display. Which is why we know they're coming back. Not 3 ships this time, an entire battle fleet, 47 vessels including 6 dreadnoughts, each one 3 times larger than anything we faced initially. The room fell silent as the assembled commanders absorbed the intelligence. The Kethmori Empire was preparing to utterly destroy Earth rather than risk another embarrassing defeat. Admiral Rebecca Foster, commander of the recently revealed Human Space Force, broke the silence. Timeline! 8 months, Marcus replied. They're gathering forces from across their empire, which gives us both an advantage and a significant challenge. Explain. Marcus manipulated the display to show Imperial fleet deployments throughout known space. The advantage is that we have time to implement Phase 2 of our defense plan. The challenge is that they're stripping defenses from conquered worlds to assemble this fleet. If we fail, they'll have sufficient force to not just conquer Earth, but to systematically exterminate our entire species. Dr. Kim activated another series of displays showing human technological development over the past century. However, we've made significant advances. The alien technology samples have allowed us to accelerate our development by several decades. The first display showed humanity's secret space fleet. Unlike the primitive rockets and space stations visible to public observation, these vessels incorporated advanced propulsion systems, energy weapons, and defensive capabilities that matched or exceeded alien technology. Marcus smiled as he watched the reactions of newly briefed personnel. Even those with high security clearances were learning for the first time about humanity's true capabilities. The USS Endeavour launched 6 weeks ago, Admiral Foster announced. She's a kilometer-long vessel equipped with weapons capable of engaging multiple alien dreadnoughts simultaneously. We currently have 12 ships of her class either completed or under construction. But Marcus knew that conventional military force, even advanced human warships, would not be sufficient to defeat an Imperial battle fleet. The Kethmori had centuries of experience in space warfare and technology that, while not superior to human innovations, was refined through countless battles. Which brings us to Phase 2, General Harrison said, activating a new tactical display. Operation Prometheus. The plan that appeared on screen was audacious beyond anything in human military history. Rather than waiting for the alien fleet to reach Earth, humanity would take the offensive. Marcus stepped to the center of the room. My role in Phase 2 extends beyond long-range engagement. I'll be leading a team to infiltrate the Imperial fleet's command structure and eliminate their leadership from within. The assembled officers exchanged glances. The concept of a single human team penetrating the defenses of an alien battle fleet seemed impossible. Explain the insertion method, Admiral Foster requested. Dr. Kim activated another display showing a sleek vessel unlike any human spacecraft previously built. The Shadow-class infiltration ship. It incorporates stealth technology derived from the crashed alien vessels combined with human innovations in quantum engineering. Marcus had spent the past 2 months training with the Shadow prototype. The ship could approach enemy vessels undetected and deploy teams directly into hostile territory. More importantly, it carried a special payload designed specifically for this mission. The Prometheus device, Dr. Kim continued, is a quantum weapon that exploits the harmonic frequencies of Kethmori technology. When activated aboard their command vessel, it will create a resonance cascade that disables every ship in their fleet simultaneously. The room erupted in questions and discussions about technical specifications, deployment protocols, and backup plans. But Marcus was focused on the mission's most critical element: timing. The window for deployment is extremely narrow, he explained. The alien fleet will maintain tight formation during their approach to Sol system. I'll have approximately 40 minutes from insertion to device activation before they detect human infiltration. Admiral Foster studied the tactical data. Survival probability? Low, Marcus answered honestly, but mission success probability is high, which is what matters. Over the following weeks, Marcus prepared for the most dangerous assignment of his career. The infiltration team consisted of 12 specialists, each expert in different aspects of alien technology and warfare. Together, they represented humanity's best chance of stopping an invasion that could end human civilization. The Shadow launched on a Tuesday morning, undetectable to any sensor system known to exist. Marcus and his team spent the 3-week journey to the rendezvous point, studying detailed intelligence on Imperial fleet composition, command structures, and security protocols. When they arrived at the coordinates where the alien fleet would assemble, Marcus was impressed by the scale of the enemy force. 47 warships had gathered from across the galaxy, each one bristling with weapons designed to reduce planets to molten slag. Infiltration target confirmed, Lieutenant Sarah Park, the team's technical specialist, reported. Command vessel is the Dreadnought Eternal Dominion. Estimated crew of 8,000, with primary command staff located in the ship's central citadel. Marcus studied the target through the Shadow's advanced sensors. The alien vessel was massive beyond human engineering, a testament to imperial power accumulated across centuries of conquest. Insertion point? Cargo Bay 7. Intelligence indicates minimal security due to the bay's internal location. We can access primary corridors from there and reach the command citadel within 30 minutes. The insertion went flawlessly. The shadow attached itself to the alien vessel's hull using magnetic clamps that mimicked Imperial maintenance protocols. To enemy sensors, they appeared as a routine external repair operation. Marcus's team penetrated the alien ship through what appeared to be a standard airlock entry. The Keth Mori had never encountered boarding actions and maintained minimal internal security. Moving through the ship's corridors, Marcus was struck by the efficiency of Imperial design. Every surface served a function, every system was optimized for warfare. The aliens had refined the art of conquest across multiple star systems, but they had never faced humans. "Command Citadel access in sight," Sergeant Rodriguez, the team's demolitions expert, whispered through the communication system. The central command area was protected by energy barriers and automated defense systems that would have stopped any conventional assault. But the team carried weapons specifically designed to exploit weaknesses in Imperial technology. Marcus activated the quantum disruptor, a device that interfered with the alien energy fields. The barriers flickered and died as their harmonic frequencies were disrupted. The team moved quickly through the command citadel, encountering confused alien personnel who had never imagined that enemies could penetrate their ship's defenses. High Admiral Vex Tar stood at the primary command station, coordinating the final approach to Sol's system. His fleet was less than 2 days from Earth, positioned to begin the systematic destruction of human civilization. "Admiral," Marcus announced, stepping into the command center with his weapon trained on the alien leader. Vex Tar turned slowly, his expression shifting from confusion to recognition. "The human Marksman. Impossible. How did you penetrate our security?" "The same way I defeated your invasion force, superior technology and better planning." The other aliens in the command center reached for weapons, but Marcus's team had already established tactical control. 12 humans held an alien command crew of 30 at gunpoint. "You cannot hope to escape this vessel alive," Vex Tar declared. "My fleet will hunt you across the galaxy." Marcus smiled, reaching into his equipment pack to extract the Prometheus device. "Admiral, you still don't understand what you're facing." The device was small, no larger than a human briefcase, but it represented the culmination of decades of human scientific advancement. When activated, it would send quantum resonance pulses through the ship's communication array, spreading to every vessel in the fleet. "This is a quantum weapon designed specifically to exploit weaknesses in Imperial technology. Your own communication systems will carry the signal to every ship in your fleet, disabling all technology simultaneously." Vex Tar's mandibles clicked in what Marcus had learned indicated extreme agitation. "You would destroy 47 vessels and everyone aboard them?" "No, Admiral. The weapon disables technology without harming biological systems. Your crews will survive, but your ships will become drifting hulks." Marcus activated the device's initialization sequence. Energy patterns began building within its quantum matrix, preparing to broadcast the resonance frequency that would cripple the alien fleet. "This is why your empire failed to conquer Earth," Marcus continued, watching the device's power levels climb toward activation threshold. "You believed that superior numbers and technology guaranteed victory, but you never understood human adaptability. The Empire will send more fleets." "No, Admiral, it won't." Marcus gestured toward the tactical display that showed the current position of Imperial forces throughout the galaxy. "While you were gathering this fleet for Earth's destruction, human teams were infiltrating your conquered worlds. Every planet you stripped of defenses is now in active rebellion." The display updated to show the true scope of Operation Prometheus. Simultaneous uprisings had begun on 17 worlds, supported by human technology and coordinated by human intelligence networks. Your empire is collapsing from within while your most powerful fleet becomes space debris. Vextar stared at the tactical data, understanding the magnitude of the trap his species had fallen into. Humanity had not simply prepared to defend Earth, they had orchestrated the liberation of every world the Keth Mori had conquered. Phase 3 of our plan begins in approximately 4 minutes, Marcus announced as the Prometheus device reached final activation stage. Human fleets will arrive at each of your conquered worlds to support the rebellions and establish new independent governments. Impossible. No species could coordinate such operations across galactic distances. You're right about that, Marcus agreed. No single species could manage such coordination, but Earth isn't alone in this operation. The command center's displays suddenly activated, showing new contacts throughout the galaxy. Species that the Keth Mori believed to be conquered and pacified were revealing hidden fleets, advanced technology, and military capabilities that had been carefully concealed. Every world you conquered spent decades planning for this moment. Earth served as the coordination center, but the rebellion was always galactic in scope. Marcus watched the device's final countdown sequence, feeling satisfaction as the culmination of humanity's longest military operation approached completion. Your empire expanded too quickly and conquered too many worlds without understanding what you were creating. You built a galactic alliance dedicated to your destruction. The Prometheus device reached activation threshold. Quantum energy erupted from its matrix, spreading through the ship's communication array at faster-than-light speeds. Every vessel in the Imperial fleet received the signal simultaneously. Across 47 warships, technology that had seemed invincible moments earlier simply stopped functioning. Weapons powered down, shields collapsed, and propulsion systems went offline. The most powerful fleet in Imperial history became a collection of drifting hulks in seconds. "Admiral," Marcus said, holstering his weapon and preparing for extraction, "your war is over. Humanity and our allies have won." Emergency lighting activated throughout the command citadel as backup power systems struggled to maintain life support. The vast alien vessel shuddered as its structural integrity fields fluctuated. "This is impossible," Vexitar whispered, staring at displays that showed his entire fleet disabled. "No, Admiral. This is what happens when you underestimate human ingenuity." Marcus activated his emergency beacon, signaling the Shadow for immediate extraction. Within minutes, his team would be aboard the stealth ship and heading back to Earth. "The Keth Mori Empire is finished," he announced. "Every conquered world is now free, and Earth stands ready to help them build better civilizations." As the Shadow detached from the disabled alien vessel, Marcus looked back at the drifting fleet. 47 ships that had been intended to destroy humanity were now evidence of human tactical superiority. But more importantly, they represented the end of galactic tyranny and the beginning of an era where no empire could conquer planets through force alone. Phase 3 was indeed beginning, but not as the aliens had imagined. Humanity would help liberate worlds, share technology, and establish a galactic confederation based on cooperation rather than conquest. The species that had appeared primitive to Imperial intelligence had just demonstrated why underestimating human determination was the last mistake an empire would ever make. Marcus Chen, the marksman who had started it all with precision shots from a mountain in Alaska, watched Earth grow larger on the Shadow's view screen and smiled. The galaxy would never be the same.